Okay, and I'm going to start by having you say and spell your complete name, please.
Ernest Leroy Tapley, Jr. Ernest Tapley. And Leroy is Leroy. And Jr.
And what's your nickname?
Tap, T-A-P.
And highest rank served in the 10th Mountain?
Staff Sergeant.
And the unit that you were assigned to within the 10th?
The unit was the North Pacific Combat School, but I first started out in Colorado in the company of the 87th. And I was in the 86th for a while, and then the 87th, and then they picked about 12 guys they wanted to get rid of, and they sent us there for, see, I was an instructor, and so they figured I could teach rock climbing in the Aleutian Islands too, as well as skiing on the hills that held snow. And we were sent there for scouts. And we trained as scouts, and then we went looking around to see where the Japanese were at the time.
Tell me a little bit about your background, where you came from in the United States.
Well, I was from Amesbury, Massachusetts, and my hobby there was to ski, I skied at a place called Locks Hill, which was about 600-foot place, and then I went up on Locks Hill and learned how to ski there with people like Gussie Patella and some of those expert skiers who skied in New Hampshire, and then they lived in Amesbury, so they skied at Locks Hill when we had snow, and I used to follow them around and give them fits.
Tell me a little bit what your ancestral background is.
Well, my mother was a Passamaquoddy Indian, 3/4 or half of 3/4. I've never checked. But and then my father was English.
So you're a.
Brief seconds here. Very excited. Oh, that's good. Okay, stand by. And
Okay. Yeah, John Woodward was our commanding officer in MTG, and I was one of the lower echelon, like a buck sergeant at the time, and then I got to be a staff sergeant after that. So I got to be on KP. They didn't have C5s, corporals in that outfit, because we were all sergeants and instructors. And so we had to do KP now and then. So one day I said to Sheely came out of the back door, and he had a pumpkin pie, and he handed it to me. He said, go hide this so that I can get it, so we can eat it later on. So it was a Saturday and inspection day. But I ran up and put it under my pillow cap. And I tightened the pillow cap so it was just perfect. You know, there was no reason for him to question my bed as they're looking at it, because I was over on KP. And Woodward came in, and he was, for some reason, the supply sergeant wanted to know how many sheets there were in the place. So Woodward went to my bed, he just by accident, and he stuck his hand in my pie under the pillow cap, and he pulled it out, and he said to Nelson Bennett, "Oh, it's surprising what you find here under the pillow caps." And then everybody coming over for dinner, they looked at me, and I was serving them, and they were smiling away, and I thought, boy, what a happy bunch. And then in come Praga said, "Tapley, you should find a better place to put your pies." And I thought, oh, I must have just, I felt embarrassed.
That is funny. Oh my God. Tell me about the trip from Leadville over to Aspen.
Oh, we had a whole bunch. Let me see if I can get it in. We would, from Leadville to Aspen. Well, see, we were camped at our camp was close to Leadville. We were right at Pando. And so we just, there was Sepp Froelich and it took 3 days going over 3 mountain ranges. And we just wanted to see how everything would work out on a long trip with just sleeping bags and 3 days of food. And we just camp out. We made snow caves. And sometimes if we got into a place fairly early and didn't want to start up another ridge or another mountain range, we'd just dig in. So I made it snow caves. And a lot of people made igloos, because you could, in some places, if there was a lake nearby, it wouldn't be ice. It would just be hard snow that was on top of the lake, and you could make an igloo pretty handy with hard snow. And it was a good practice. So we did it with machetes. We cut the snow. We had the long 3-foot machetes that we carried just for cutting snow blocks, and then you'd shape them just right. And then we had some people like Petzalt that knew how to make igloos. And then we just went on and on and on through the valleys and got our skis. We had our skis. We'd have climbers. We'd climb up. We had the mohair climbers. We didn't have sealskins in those days. Sealskins came a little bit later, by the hundreds. And then we would climb up to a pass and then ski down the other side, which was fun. Then we skied down into Aspen, actually.
What month was this?
February.
And who do you recall being on that trip?
Well, Paul Petzelt was with me, Bill Hackett, and probably Nate Morrell. I'm not sure. No, that was another time. Well, maybe. I can't remember all the guys. Ed Tenney, Ed Bunkoff. I can just go on the names that you'd probably never heard of, but.
Did John Woodward go on that trip?
Yeah, Wood was in charge. Yeah.
I know they also did a later trip in June, but this sounds like this was predated that.
In 43,
43, they did a June hike, but this sounds like this was before.
in the
that.
winter. 40 could be 42.
Yeah, it must
So
have
I
been.
was in there in 42.
What was the most difficult part of that trip?
No, nothing. It was just skiing, camping. Oh yeah, and I knew I was going on that trip. I brought along, just for the fun of it, a bottle of liquor. And before the trip was over, one day Ed Tenney said, "Let's have a sip of that. I'm kind of chilly." And it had frozen, and it was just pure alcohol. And so we were digging snow caves like crazy. We just were all enthused. We were warm. We could even take off a outer jacket. It was just pure alcohol. It froze, and so it was just beautiful stuff. There's ice in the bottom and all this liquid on top. We didn't know what it was. So we had brought that from Denver when Ed Tenney thought it'd be a good deal to have a drink.
Did this even feel like work to you?
No,
What did it feel like?
just adventure.
Could you believe you were in the Army?
Oh, yeah, when they started telling me what to do. But then I got to be staff sergeant, and then I could tell other people how to do it. And once I knew that I knew what I was doing, I don't know how I knew I knew what I was doing, but it was just everything came natural, to dig the snow caves and to keep dry and to keep warm and not get your clothes wet, because all we had was a Primus stove. We didn't have any other way of keeping warm except by the food we ate and the liquid that we drank.
Do you think that being part Indian had somehow prepared you for some of these hardships?
No, I don't think so. Although some of the guys seemed kind of dumb. Other ones were just smarter than me.
because you'd lived in the Northeast and you'd spent a fair amount of time outside already, how did that prepare you for being in the tent?
Oh yeah, I shivered a lot before I got there, and I was fairly comfortable. I was very comfortable up in the mountains, and so when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time in what we called the woods instead of the forest, close to our house. Made fire, learned how to make fires and how to keep it from getting away, and how to cook, and then we learned more and more as we kept doing it.
Just a second, we're just going to disconnect the coffee maker.
Oh, okay.
The power's off completely? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll have some coffee when you get around to it.
Maybe you should pour that whole...
Yes.
I'm sorry, which...
After that, I was on KP.
No, talk right over here.
He put me on KP for a long time, but I bought my way off. I got a guy to take my place, and I went to Climax. You know, there's a little town called Climax with a ski tow, with a ski run. And I thought, well, Wood would never find me here. And so I went out, and I was skiing down, and I was going down through some breakable crust, and I was having trouble in the breakable crust because, you know, trying to do the Dick Durrance double doodle. And pretty soon I heard something boom, 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 boom. He said, Tapley, don't you know how to let's see, what did he say? Tapley, are you having trouble here skiing? He said, follow me, do just what I do. And Woodward was there, and also Fred Island too. Let's see, boy, I'm getting some of this mixed up. But anyway, Woodward caught me in Climax because he was skiing there as well. And I thought he'd never go to Climax, he'd go to Aspen or some place like that. And so I paid off a guy to take my KP, and I took off with Ed Tenney and went there to and skied Climax. He said, I know a good place where no one will find you. And so when I come back, I still had KP for a while. But they needed me to teach rock climbing, and so that's how I got out of KP after about the third week. Otherwise, I'd been there forever. So I had to go teach rock climbing, which was a good thing. They needed more instructors.
Tell me what it was like to teach rock climbing.
Oh, it's good. We I'd have about a dozen guys standing around, and I'd spend time just telling them about the handhold and foothold. I'd say, well, you got the push, pull, cross pressure, jam, and friction, and then you have how to hold your body, and then so we'd just climb a short ways and do a little traverse over a rock that I've picked out, and make sure they don't pick on any slab that are loose, and because once you get up in the air, if you fall, you hurt yourself even though you're on a rope. And then you have to teach the rope, all the knots, the bowline on the bite, and the butterfly knot, and show them how to tie it on very good so it doesn't come running up underneath your arms and tighten on your chest as you should fall. And so they'd have the bowline on the bite would be for the leader, and the butterfly for the middleman, and just a plain bowline for the end man and you'd have the bowline, but you'd back it up with an overhand knot around your waist so nothing would ever come out while you. Because a bowline, just plain bowline, can loosen up and come loose in a half a day's climb.
Did you find these guys were pretty quick studies?
Yeah. When you get them on a cliff, they start paying attention to you.
Were you on those cliffs that are right along Camp Hale's, right along the perimeter of Camp Hale?
Well, up by Cooper Hill, then there was some. Yeah, there was some right there. Yeah.
It was like C Avenue or.
How'd you know that? That's C Street, C cliffs. There were different sets of cliffs. I never paid any attention to the name of them. We just went up. I remember when you said Sea Cliff, we've gone over there.
Did you feel that you were ready to teach rock climbing when you first went there?
Oh, no, but I had bearer who was an Austrian or a German, and he was my instructor. So all of us got instructions from European instructors. There was Victor Gottschalk, bearer, not a yogi bearer, but just bearer, and he was my instructor. And there were some other instructors, but he just gave us real good instructing because he came from Austria.
What did you know about rock climbing when you went there?
Nothing. But since I was what they thought a woodsman, a horseman, I did all that before I went in. They just, and I got put in that unit, they figured I could learn. And since I taught too, since I taught at Sun Valley, I was an instructor already. Anybody that had any kind of instructing possibilities, they took them. They needed instructors for the amount of men they had to teach, and then they taught me how to climb, and then you had to pass a test. If the other guy said, your instructor said you're okay, well then you were okay. It wasn't just a regular test.
Do you consider some of your aptitude for learning all the outdoor things quickly do you think contributed any of that to some of your Native American heritage?
No, I never thought about it. No, I didn't. No, I just think about it. If I get on a cliff, I start thinking of things that are right. Or if I'm falling a tree, I know enough to keep out of the way and stuff like that. It's just natural things.
Could you think of things that your mom might have taught you since she was either full or partial blooded Indian? Can you think of things that you might have been exposed to that were from your Native American heritage?
Yeah, I can think so. We when we played, we didn't play so much with baseball and stuff like that, although we did quite a bit of it. But we spent a lot of time camping in the woods that surrounded our houses. Off to the side there were some woods and a stone crusher that had been just cut down. They didn't have it anymore. But there was the cliffs where they had dug in, and we used to climb those rocks just for the fun of it. We didn't have ropes, but I remember one time Eugene O'Brien. He was in a tin barrel. It was only a slope like that, and he got obnoxious, and he climbed in the barrel, and I gave it a push. It didn't hurt him, but he went round and round for about 30 yards down the cliff and bounce and bounce and bounce. 50-gallon drum. Right? And I don't know why I thought of that, but it was when I think of the cliff at the stone crusher, I think of Eugene O'Brien in the barrel, and I pushed it off. He came out pretty well shook up, but we still stayed friends.
How do you think your Native American part of your past has shaped your sensibilities of who you are?
Well, I don't know. I just I don't know. I don't think I'm anyone special, even if I'm an Indian, part Indian.
Well, I know that some kids came out of pretty city life. Some of these kids did come out of city life, and they were pretty white mainstream kids, and you obviously had a different background.
Yeah, well, they used to ask, especially when we first got in the Army, they'd ask me a lot of things because I'd try to show off and do things that they couldn't do, and so they'd ask me how to do it, and I was glad to work with them.
Was there a lot of learning by showing?
Yeah, lots of it. Show them how to do it, and everything from roping down cliffs, and would rope down with a 30 caliber machine gun, and with a belt load of ammunition. You rope down to a cave and just keep blast as you go by the cave and then down. And a lot of learning like that. And that wasn't when we were kids. That's when we were in the Aleutian Islands.
What made you want to join the 10th?
because it was a ski. It was called the ski troops, and I thought I was a skier because I skied ever since I was a kid. My Uncle George had a pair of skis that were 9 feet long, and I was about 4 feet high, and there were just a leather strap through a slot in the skis, and so I invented what I thought was the first binding. So I went and cut on inner tubes, just the ring of the tube. I just cut across and put them around my ankles. And from my ankles, I could put my toe in the leather strap and then come over my toe with a rubber, and it held my foot into the strap. So I figured that was one of the first bindings that wouldn't come out. That was in the 30s.
Now, when you use these skills to adapt some of the Army equipment, how did that help you when you were out on maneuvers?
Oh, I don't know. Most of that stuff was already taken care of by good mountaineers for being warm and how to dress and how to keep dry and how to drink, keep water fluids in your system.
Did you adapt their skis for some of these long uphill climbs so that you had a certain advantage in terms of your heel?
Oh, yeah, the heel could lift. I could just put a rubber over my toe and my heel could lift, but they had the Dover binding anyway, which you just take off the back clip and do the same thing. But they weren't very good for downhill. You'd be doing telemarks. You couldn't do a stem turn or a Christie because your heel would be pretty loose. A telemark turn, you know what that is? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you were out at Sun Valley and how you came to be recruited.
Yeah, I ran away from home, I guess, more or less. Well, let's see. Gee, I don't remember everything.
How old were you?
I went to Sun Valley when I was about 16, 17. And, first I went to North Conway. I just got an urge to go skiing. And my sisters, what did I do?
Can you pause?
Oh, yeah, I just saw it.
John, where there's a guy coming off a cornice in the sunlight and making turns down through the trees. That's me.
Tell me a little bit about...
That was in Aspen.
Tell me a little bit about the J footage where you are being pulled behind a car.
Oh, was it in the road? I was pulled behind a car a lot of times. And he probably got either a weasel or a car or a Jeep. Well, yeah.
Well, tell me about one of the fun things you used to do with your skis behind a vehicle.
Well, we just do a slalom, more or less. I didn't do any flip-flops or twisting or turning, just skied behind it. And you could run up on the side and come down, and just kind of a slalom behind the vehicle. So,
Can you tell it to me like as a story about one of the fun things that you used to do, so I can use it as a complete.
You mean skiing?
Behind the car. Yeah.
Behind the vehicle. All right. If someone was we wanted to. Holy cats! I can't think. It was just fun to get a climbing rope and have it on the back of the vehicle, and just go. You could go way out to the side. You could go way out if you wanted to, as long as you didn't get into a barbed wire fence or something, and just more or less like surfing, because you didn't really ski. You just leaned back so your tips wouldn't get caught. You kept your weight on both skis, and so that it was just even. Then you'd go from one side of the road to the other side, into the road or the ice or whatever, and then up onto the banks, and someone would drive and try to make you fall down. And it was, and sometimes we'd have two people, and then we'd crisscross and get tangled up, and it was just something to do when you were young. I don't think I would try it now. Maybe it'd be fun if we went straight. But
Was this some of your after-hours entertainment?
yeah, well, sometimes we had a whole day of recreation, or just out trying to think of something to do. And instead of just sitting around or going through Aspen and trying to find things to do, we'd go out for a ride behind the weasel. Sometimes it was good to, if you're going on a long trip, even with your packs, they'd let us tow behind the weasel till we get up into a basin. So it was along maybe 8 or 9 miles of road. And so we'd just tie onto we'd have a sling rope. You put a prusik on the main line so it would be tight and you could slip it if you wanted to. And then you just put it around your waist, a sling rope of 12 feet. And we could go about 9 or 10 miles up the road, and then once we got up there, we were fairly rested, and then we could start our hike. But the weasels would
Is
get
this
us up
something you
there.
do up Resolution Creek, up to Ptarmigan Pass?
Yeah, we could do that.
Let's go back to where you're getting recruited out at Sun Valley.
All right, I was in Sun Valley, and on the ski patrol. There was the McDonald twins and a bunch of other people. All of a sudden, they said there was I got a notice, you're going to be drafted. And I thought, holy cats, I want to keep skiing. So we said I said, well, they mentioned that there was a ski unit called the 10th Mountain. I said, okay, I want to do that. So I wrote back to Massachusetts, to the draft board, and asked them if I came back, if I could be placed in the 10th Mountain. And they agreed, because I knew I was on the ski patrol, and so I went back home, and then I was had a 6 weeks basic training. And then they shipped me off to Colorado.
Tell me a little bit about the Otto Lang film out at Sun Valley.
Oh, Otto Lang, he just wanted to get a film that he didn't have to pay for the skiers, so he used the ski patrol. And we'd go up on Baldy and come down through the trees, and he would just have us do things. I'd go over a big jump, and I knew I was going to fall, but he wanted to get it before I fell because it looked spectacular. He said, now come right over here. We jump over this road and go over, and here would be a top of a pine tree, and I'd go over that. And then by the time I landed in deep snow, real deep snow, I'd just clobber, but he wouldn't get that, of course. But it just looked pretty cool. And so he's got all of that.
You don't think that was a little dangerous, do you?
Well, it was deep snow, and we had the safety bindings. They'd come out. Yeah, I'd have to look for the skis and sometimes the poles after I fell, but we didn't care about falling so much. We used to go up when Fred Island had the ski school and Friedel Pfeiffer. We'd try to be first on the lift, and they would be waiting down below get all the instructors on to go to the top to get their assignments for the day. And so a couple of us, I forgot his name. And we'd go to the top, and then we'd shush the canyon. You know the canyon? We'd come down through the rock garden, just down, make a left turn. We'd scare everybody that was on the lift. And because our clothes were those new Irving pants that were flipped, they just made a racket like a flagged in the wind, you know. We didn't have those tight pants yet. But Irving company just had these really fancy gabardine, beautiful pants, but they made a lot of noise when you went fast. Then we came around the rock garden and down the canyon, down into the river run, and then back, and we'd be there. Just Fred would be there. Well, where have you been? Okay, we're just coming out a little late. He didn't know we already had to run.
Did you think at times that some of the training at Hale was pushed people to the limits?
Well, a lot of people were pushed to the limit, especially the New York people and the people that just came in that didn't have that hadn't been out into the wilderness very much or into the woods, or some of them didn't. Some of them were awfully good skiers, but they never decided to sleep out in the snow at any time. They'd never done that, and we'd already have done that.
What were some of the hardships that resulted from some of that severe training?
There wasn't any. No, we just, as long as we had a good attitude, there wasn't any hardships. We just thought the hardships were kind of fun.
What is the 10th Mountain attitude?
10th Mountain, well, just to train and be ready for action. And they knew that they'd either freeze or get shot or something happen if you don't pay attention to what you're doing and really train like the officers want you to train. They had some pretty good officers.
What do you think is the spirit of the 10th Mountain?
Well, it was always high. Yeah, like they have a song. Let's see, the mountain troops are best, fight far, we'll win this doggone war, stuff like that.
How do you think the 10th Mountain experience shaped your life?
Oh, it did. It did shape it, just made me pay attention to everything and to enjoy what you do, even if it's tough. And you don't have to try to enjoy it, you just enjoy it. You just say, well, it's another day, another problem, another period that you gotta go through, and then you've just gotta live it.
When you think back to when you were teaching to some of the brass, what was it funny or was it hard? How was it trying to
No,
teach?
I got a kick out of it. I had captains, I had lieutenants, and I think I even had a colonel at one time. And I just taught them like they were skiers. I didn't pay any attention. And I couldn't say, sir, this and that. I just explained to them. I said, you want to learn how to ski? I'll teach you how to ski and fast. And so we'd start right in, and I'd start them in with a traverse, and then I'd start them, next would be a snowplow, and they said, no, we don't want snowplows, we want to ski parallel. So you learn this first and get your balance. And then from the stem, then I went from the stem turn into a stem Christie, and then all the motions for a parallel turn comes from the stem Christie. So they get a down and a lift and a down and pressing the knees towards the tips of the skis and stuff like that. And so pretty soon they said, boy, I'm learning how to ski. This is it. And so I could just, I'd call them, not sergeant. I don't think I ever called him by colonel or this. If it's a colonel, that was easier to say than lieutenant. It'd take too long by the time he made his turn. But I'd just call them by name, and they'd do it. And they were happy. They learned how to ski.
Were there some brass that were probably better at being brass than skiing?
Better being brass than skiers? Yeah, no, they all learned. Because all they had to know was how to get a group of 30 guys off a mountain, and they'd go down in a downhill running position, which across the slope in a traverse, and then they don't want to go fast. Then they just make a turn and come back, and you make a stem turn and make the turn, so no one would fall down. And after you had your regular training, there wasn't any reason for them to fall down unless they hit in the woods or something and the skis hit a stub of a tree or something. But that would be the only reason. If they did, we just rolled off and they'd take it, go in the pickup and go in the rear.
What did teaching others teach you?
With teaching others, they taught me how to ski better, for one thing, and to know all the movements of skiing, for one thing, and to appreciate the people that I was teaching, the ones that didn't have the ability and they tried hard. I knew there was all types of people. Some were cocky, some were scared, some could do it just fine, and I tried to get them to be all the same, especially when they all had to be in the same file. They all had to ski the same, but then when we had camp, they'd ask me for some other type of skiing instruction, like deep snow, powder snow skiing, parallel, and stuff like that. They wanted to know that, but I didn't want them to do that with a pack, because with that rucksack, it was an Army rucksack. You did have a waist strap, but it could throw you around, and once you get thrown around and the pack hits the ground first, and your skis go up in the air, and you just roll until you get the skis back on the ground. You usually roll quite a ways, so I didn't want them to do that. And
did you see some pretty spectacular crashes with those packs?
Oh yeah, there wasn't too dangerous, but it could always be dangerous when you see skis got too long boards on you. But there was some when we had Dover bindings, they weren't too safe, because you had a toe plate, you had a cable and a front hitch, and your feet were in there. And so I tried not to have too dangerous crashes, but every once in a while there was if some guys started to think they're pretty good, I'd ski a little different with them, and they would either get better or they'd fall down.
Did most people want to learn?
Oh yeah. Well, they wanted to learn because they knew if they didn't learn, they're going to go to the snowshoe battalion, and they didn't want to go to that. They'd have to take care of a dog, I guess, besides learning how to snowshoe, and they don't go very fast.
In training, when the conditions were either very cold or people were working at very high levels, what was it that kept them going?
Well, we ate very well, and I made sure they had plenty to drink, and it was just the moisture and food is what keeps you warm.
And how about mentally?
Mentally, well, they just you give them something to think about all the time. Yeah, if you just let them get lackadaisical, they'll start thinking about home. But I'd rather say, here, look, we're going to learn how to cut up through a cornice with the ice axe. Oh yeah, that one, it looks pretty. They say, what if it falls? I said, then you're dead. If it falls with you, but you're going to go in a place where it's not going to fall. That's what I'm going to show you. And then you're going to cut with your ice axe, and you cut steps and get up. Oh boy, because that's all they could think of all night. They wouldn't worry about anything, and I wouldn't either. Because when I could get kind of just not wanting to work too hard with them. I'd have to get myself excited about. I'd tell them, well, we're going to cut through a cornice, and then I think, oh, what did I say? Now I've got to lead the way up there and show them how to cut through a cornice, and it's work. It takes work, but it's exciting. Once you get on top, you put your ice axe and show them how to make ice axe blaze. Then you show them actually, we get up there, and which is real fun. I get them up there. If I'm in second on the rope, I put the ice axe in, and I said, now fall. What? just fall off the cornice. And so they just, they have faith in you. So they fall, and I make it ice axe. Well, they pull in the ropes, and then let it run around the ice axe one turn and catch them. And they said, hey, can we do this more? This is kind of fun. And then, so I have everyone practicing that on a slope that don't have a avalanche possibility.
How many guys did you lose in?
Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry. This is a really good time to change.
oh,
tapes.
okay. Stand by. We're gonna change tapes for a sec.
I didn't lose anybody.
Well, you know,